All right, I'm going to tell you about 4 types of isometrics. 2 are for pure strength, and the other 2 actually have hypertrophy effects as well. Regardless, they're going to change your training probably forever. I'm also going to tell you how and when you should use them in your programs, so stick around and let's do this. Guys, I'm trying to make the best value for time channel in the industry. So if you like the videos such as this that pack a ton of action items into 5 minutes or less, then please subscribe. Okay, so the term isometric literally means same length. So when it comes to training, we're talking about creating force or producing force and tension without changing the angle of the joint. The first method I'm going to talk about, and by far the most popular, is something called overcoming isometrics. Overcoming isometrics is referring to when you push or you pull a bar into an immovable object, such as safety pins or in a power rack. Now, the main benefits of overcoming isometrics is strength. Now, this happens because you recruit up to 10% more motor units than you would with a regular contraction. Now, if you're an intermediate to advanced lifter, you want to go 100% full force into this. If you're a beginner, only stick with about 70 to 80% just to avoid injury. And again, with isometrics, one of the main benefits is that it strengthens the tendons. Now, as you may or may not know, most injuries happen at the musculotendinous junction or the tendinous bone junction. Regardless, the tendon is the place where things tend to tear. Now, what's cool about this is that you would use this mostly at your sticking point in any given lift, but it does have about a 15-degree carryover in any given direction. Now, the way you do an overcoming isometric is, again, you'll be pushing a bar or pulling a bar into safety pins. Now, you're going to hold this for about 6 to 10 seconds. Like I said, if you're intermediate to advanced, go all out. Or again, if you're a beginner, go to about 80% of an RPE just to avoid injury. So again, hold for about 6 to 10 seconds, and it's about a 10-to-1 rest to work ratio. So if you're holding it for 10 seconds or holding it, say, for 6 seconds, you're going to rest then for 60 minutes or a minute. And typically, you'll do this for 5 sets. Now, whether you know or not, I basically categorize my training phases into 3 types of main phases, which is strength, hypertrophy, and conditioning. And depending on the time of year or the goals that I'm going after, I'll categorize or I'll prioritize those things as such. They're always in there, but the order in which I place exercises determines on the goal at hand. So with this type of isometric, this is a pure strength type of isometric. So it goes into my strength first programs, and I enter them into basically the first or second exercise in the program. Now, another cool thing that you can do with this is use it as a strength potentiating tool. And what you'll do is, say you're just going to be doing pure bench press, go ahead and do a set or 2 of these overcoming isometrics, and then go to your regular barbell lift, and you'll see that the bar does feel much lighter just because you've primed the nervous system a little better. Okay, next is yielding isometrics. So this refers to when you're holding either an external weight or your body in a position for an extended period of time, usually 45 to 70 seconds. Now, this is a method that works best with more of a maximum duration rather than maximum intensity. So thus it's better adapted to hypertrophy. So I use this more for hypertrophy programs or hypertrophy exercises. Although I will use this for people who struggle with body weight exercises. So if you're really bad at pull-ups, if you're really bad at dips, a lot of powerlifters are notorious for being able to be really strong with a barbell, but when it comes to body weight strength, it's just not there. So I will also use this as a tool to strengthen those particular body weight strength lifts. But like I said, I personally like to use it more for a hypertrophy effect because the way it mainly works is something called the occlusion effect. So this is where if you hold your muscle in a contraction and you're not pumping it, it's basically blood is actually still coming in through the arteries, but it's not going out. So you're creating more metabolic waste buildup and blood buildup. And then that stimulates a local growth factor called mechanical growth factor, as well as it stimulates the mTOR pathway. I'll typically put these closer to the end of a workout day, regardless of if it's a strength or a hypertrophy program. Just because by the end of the set, you're typically drained both at the cellular level and your central nervous system to a degree is also drained. Okay, now next is the isodynamic method. Now you can use this method 3 ways. So there's 3 different applications, so I'll just go over them one by one. So the first method is typically called pause lifting. Pause squats, pause bench press, pause deadlift. So application 1 is pausing for 2 to 3 seconds at a key position in the lift. Now, normally this is a position where you will start to lose your form or start to lose that mind muscle connection in the lift. A very common one is on the bench press. So the muscles that typically get loose are the rhomboids, or the muscles up that keep the scapula retracted. So when I'm doing pause bench press, I'll do my regular bench, bar comes down, touches the chest, comes up halfway, and this is typically where people will lose their scapula. So from this position, hold it for 2 to 3 seconds, get mentally engaged with the pressing muscles, and then when you re-engage, squeeze those rhomboids, and just think of taking the elbows close in for the lockout. So you're practicing the lockout. So that's where these pause lifts come in, and that's where the isodynamic application comes in to that specific one. So application 1 is more of a mind muscle connection to help you hone in on the form. Application 2 is more suited for hypertrophy. This is one of my favorite hypertrophy methods. I use it a lot for biceps. So this is when you hold a weight for 15 to 30 seconds, usually in mid position, and then afterwards you'll complete 6 to 8 repetitions. So it's a little bit of this hybrid method. You get all the benefits of doing the isometric, and then the reps that follow are actually highly mechanically stressed reps because you are going to be slightly fatigued from doing the isometric beforehand. And we all know that as far as mechanical stress hypertrophy is that the most high intensity mechanically stressed reps produce the most muscle growth. So do the isometric 15 to 30 seconds, then complete it with 6 to 8 repetitions. Now, if you really wanted to go crazy, you could also on that last repetition try to hold it on the way down for 15 to 30 seconds again, although I've done this before and it really just turns into a super slow isometric, but you'll see people do that at the gym all the time, right? Get the most out of that last rep. But start the set, the application 2 is starting the set with the isometric. Okay, and the last method is something called an EQI, an eccentric quasi-isometric. So why it's called that is because this is actually a form of a yielding isometric. When you hold it for 45 to 70 seconds, it's just in the elongated state of the muscle. So the stress actually transfers more to the tendon. So this method is actually probably the best for strengthening tendons. Remember, I mentioned that earlier. So what you'll do is you'll set up in a stretched position. Let's take a push-up, for example. So if I'm setting up in a stretched position of a push-up, it'll be from a deficit. And I'll go down and then I'll contract the muscle. So I'll elevate myself probably 1 to 2 inches and I'll hold it there again 45 to 70 seconds. And then by the end of that 45 to 70 seconds though, I should have lowered myself because the stress would have been that much. Now, if you were able to absolutely hold it there, then you can probably apply load, or you could use an external load. Like another way of hitting the chest would be to do incline dumbbell flies or something like that. So like I said, this method, it's also really good for hypertrophy. I would say this is more of a hypertrophy effect than a strength effect, but it does strengthen the tendons better than the other techniques. Okay? They're also really good to improve your mobility. So if you just hold that position for, again, 45 to 70 seconds, you'll see that by the end, without even trying, you would have sank. And research now shows is that loaded stretching is far more beneficial than just passive stretching. So a great technique for mobility. Now with EQIs, I put them right at the end as the very last exercise that I do, whether it's a strength first or hypertrophy first program. Hey guys, I hope you're better off for watching this video and you know a little bit more about isometrics and where to put them into your program. And guys, remember to check out my online store to check out Lifting Fuel if you haven't already. Lifting Fuel is the first pre-workout designed specifically for the strength athlete. So its ingredients are meant to support the central nervous system and the creatine phosphate system that has a moderate stimulant effect. So if you're a strength athlete and you're taking all these generic pre-workouts that are just meant to hyperstimulate you, but it doesn't support the actual strength system, I think you're wasting your time and money. So go ahead, check it out. All the information's on there. All the scientific studies are on there too. So do me a favor, check it out and support the channel. That's it for this video, guys. Stay strong and free. Guys, I'm trying to make the best value for time channel in the industry. So if you like the videos such as this that pack a ton of action items into 5 minutes or less, then please subscribe. Until next time, stay strong and free.